Now, let's reconstruct the perfect storm, the horrifying synergy of culture, biology, and neurology that created this real-life nightmare that a young Hmong man, genetically predisposed to Brugada Syndrome, but completely unaware of it, goes to sleep. He is already under immense psychological pressure. The stress of being a refugee, the culture shock, the pressure to provide for his family in a strange new world. In the deep of night, during a period of slow-wave sleep, his heart, due to its genetic flaw, enters a precarious, unstable state. It's on the edge of chaos. His brain, sensing the life-threatening irregularity in its blood supply or through nervous system feedback, jolts itself into a hyper-aware, waking state in a desperate attempt to save the body. It's a biological alarm bell. However, in its panic, the transition is messy. The brain wakes up, but the body is still swimming in the inhibitory chemicals of REM sleep and remains paralyzed. He is thrust directly into a state of sleep paralysis. The man is now awake, trapped inside his own motionless body. His heart is fluttering dangerously. He is struggling to breathe deeply due to the paralyzed chest muscles, leading to oxygen deprivation, hypoxia, which further fuels the sense of panic and dread. His brain, now flooded with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and confused by the hypoxia, desperately searches its memory for a framework to understand this horror. And it finds the most powerful, culturally ingrained explanation possible: the Dab Tsog. His mind, in a terrifying act of self-fulfilling prophecy, manifests the full, vivid hallucination: the female spirit, the crushing weight on his chest, the malevolent presence. This isn't just a scary dream. To him, it is a literal, physical, and spiritual attack. The fear he experiences is not just anxiety. It is a primal, absolute, soul-crushing terror, the kind of fear that his ancestors had spoken of for generations. This terror triggers a massive, catastrophic surge of adrenaline, exactly the kind of surge that is known to be the primary trigger for fatal arrhythmias in individuals with Brugada syndrome. His heart, already compromised and teetering on the brink, receives this jolt of adrenaline. It's the final push. It goes into full ventricular fibrillation, a chaotic, useless quivering, and stops. He dies of cardiac arrest brought on by a genetic flaw, but triggered by a fear so powerful and so specific that it was culturally conjured. The Dab Tsog killed him, not as an external spirit, but as an internalized, psychological weapon that exploited a biological vulnerability. The legend provided the script, the genetic condition provided the vulnerability, and sleep paralysis provided the stage. The men weren't killed by a ghost. They were, in a very real and medically profound sense, scared to death by their own deeply held beliefs, made manifest by a perfect storm of neurology and cardiology. This case remains one of the most stark and tragic examples of how culture and biology can intertwine to create a very real and very deadly phenomenon. As awareness spread within the community and doctors learned to screen for Brugada syndrome using ECGs with specific lead placements, the epidemic slowly faded, though cases still occasionally occur. The story of the Dab Tsog stands as a chilling testament to the power of belief, the fragility of the human heart, and the very real monsters the human mind can create when fear becomes a physical force. This story blurs the line between myth and reality in a way that is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. It proves that sometimes The most potent horrors are not found in haunted houses, but in the unexplored corners of our own biology and the powerful stories our cultures tell us. The Dab Tsog is a reminder that our minds are the ultimate architects of our reality, capable of building both sanctuaries and prisons. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who isn't afraid to delve into the deepest, darkest mysteries our world has to offer. You appreciate the complex interplay of history, science, and folklore that creates the most compelling narratives. This channel is dedicated to unearthing these stories, whether they are forgotten legends, unexplained historical events, or terrifying real-life phenomena like this one. We put countless hours of research into every video to bring you the most compelling and well-documented narratives possible. If you want to join us on this ongoing journey into the unknown to explore the shadows with a critical but open mind, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We have a deep archive of mysteries waiting for you, and you won't want to miss what we have planned next. Your support is what makes this channel possible. If this video sent a chill down your spine and made you see your own sleep in a new light, please smash that like button. It genuinely helps more than you know. It tells YouTube's algorithm that you want more content like this and helps others find our community of curious minds. But most importantly, we want to hear from you. This is a topic that sparks a lot of discussion and personal stories. Have you or someone you know ever experienced sleep paralysis? What did you see or feel? Did your cultural background influence the hallucination? Do you think there's more to this story than just science? Could there be an element we're still missing? Let's get a massive conversation going down in the comments section. Your thoughts, your experiences, your theories, they are the lifeblood of this channel. They turn a monologue into a dialogue and help everyone see these stories from a new angle. This is Read in Darkness, signing off for now. Thank you for watching. Remember, sleep tight. But maybe, just for tonight, you might want to think happy thoughts before you close your eyes. The mind is a powerful thing. What if the most terrifying monster isn't hiding in the forest, isn't lurking in an abandoned asylum, and isn't even waiting under your bed? What if it's inside of you, right now, sleeping, and it only wakes up when you close your eyes, a silent passenger in your own DNA, a ghost in your genetic machine, waiting for the perfect storm of fear and biology to strike? Hello, friends, and welcome back to the channel. Strap in, because today's story is not your typical campfire ghost tale. We are diving into one of the most bizarre, medically documented, and genuinely frightening phenomena to ever emerge from the shadows of modern medicine. This is a story backed by CDC reports, countless medical studies, and coroner's inquests. It's a story of a real-life curse that followed a group of refugees across the ocean, leaving a trail of corpses, all of whom died in their sleep with looks of absolute terror frozen on their faces. We are talking about the epidemic of sudden unexpected nocturnal death syndrome, SUNDS, also known as sleeping death of Lao men. This is the harrowing true story of how an ancient folk demon, known as the Dab Tsog, or the night-crushing spirit, was scientifically proven to be real. If you think you'll sleep soundly after this video, you are gravely mistaken. Stay until the very end, because the conclusion of this story is what truly separates fact from a nightmare you can't wake up from. Our story begins not in a single location, but across the lush, mountainous landscapes of Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and the Philippines. For generations, the Hmong people of Laos lived with a deep-seated cultural fear, a legend passed down through centuries. They spoke of a malevolent spirit, a vengeful ghost known as the Dab Tsog, pronounced Dacha. This entity, often described as a beautiful but deadly female spirit, would visit men in the dead of night. Her method was specific and horrifying. She would silently enter a home, perch upon the chest of her sleeping victim, and begin to slowly crush the life out of him. The victim would awaken, fully conscious, able to see the demonic visage of the woman on his chest, but be completely paralyzed, unable to move a muscle, to scream, or to fight back. They would be forced to lie there, in a state of unimaginable terror, feeling the pressure on their chest increase, their breath failing, until they succumbed to death. It was a story, a folk tale, a way to explain the unexplainable tragedies that sometimes befell healthy young men in the night. The Hmong developed rituals to ward off the Dab Tsog, certain prayers, amulets worn to bed, and some would even go so far as to tie a piece of string around their wrist or toe before sleeping, a literal thread connecting them to the world of the living, a tether to pull them back from the spirit world. But in the late 1970s and early 1980s, this ancient folktale violently collided with the modern world. In the aftermath of the Vietnam War and the secret war in Laos, thousands of Hmong refugees who had fought alongside American forces were forced to flee. They endured unimaginable hardship, often spending years in overcrowded Thai refugee camps like Ban Vinai, where conditions were bleak and hope was a scarce commodity. Eventually, many were granted asylum and resettled in the United States, seeking safety and a new beginning. They arrived traumatized, displaced, and struggling to adapt to a completely alien culture. They thought they had escaped the dangers of war. Instead, they were followed by their demon. The Dab Tsog, it seemed, had a passport. Suddenly, in seemingly safe American cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Providence, a medical mystery began to unfold. Healthy, young Hmong men, refugees in their prime, aged between 25 and 44, were dying in their sleep. And they weren't just dying. They were dying in ways that horrified coroners and baffled police. They would go to bed perfectly healthy and be found dead the next morning. Their faces were almost always contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. Their eyes were wide open, staring at some unseen terror. Their beds often looked like war zones, sheets torn, pillows shredded, furniture knocked over. It was as if they had fought a desperate, silent battle for their lives against an invisible assailant. Yet, there were no signs of break-in, no struggle. With another person, no wounds. It was as if they had been attacked from within their own nightmares. The terror was so palpable that in some cases, family members sleeping in the same room reported hearing a faint struggle, a gurgle, or a last, choked breath. But by the time they turned on the light, it was already over. The monster had vanished, leaving only a corpse as evidence of its visit. The initial autopsies were a dead end. No signs of a classic heart attack. No evidence of a stroke. No poisons or toxins in their systems. These men were the picture of health, yet they were dropping dead. The pattern was unmistakable and terrifying. The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, was called in. They labeled the phenomenon Sudden Unexpected Nocturnal Death Syndrome, or SUNDS. It was a name, not an explanation. It was a classification of despair for pathologists who could find no physical cause of death. Doctors scrambled for answers. Was it stress? Extreme PTSD from the unspeakable traumas of war and displacement? Could it be a new, unknown virus? Something in their diet, a drastic change from their traditional foods to processed American goods? Perhaps a chemical exposure? Theories abounded, but nothing fit. The death toll was isolated almost exclusively to this specific demographic. Young, healthy Hmong men. The only people who seemed to have an answer were the Hmong community themselves. They knew immediately what it was. They told the terrified doctors and frustrated investigators. It was the Dab Tsog. The crushing spirit has followed us here. Our home is gone. Our rituals are forgotten in this new land, and the spirit is angry. To the Western scientific mind, this was superstition, a cultural artifact to be noted and dismissed. But as the death toll climbed into the hundreds, scientists were forced to take a closer look. The description provided by the Hmong people was too specific, too consistent, too visceral to ignore. A pressure on the chest, waking paralysis, overwhelming, fear, a female presence. This sounded eerily familiar to a known, though poorly understood, sleep phenomenon. Sleep paralysis. To understand the full horror, we must first dive deep into the science of sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a state where the brain and the body become temporarily disconnected during the sleep-wake cycle. When we dream, particularly during the REM, rapid eye movement, stage, the phase where our most vivid, narrative dreams occur, our brain's motor cortex is highly active to prevent us from physically acting out our dreams and injuring ourselves. The brainstem sends a signal to paralyze all voluntary muscles, a condition called muscle atonia. It's a brilliant and necessary safety mechanism. However, sometimes this system glitches. During the transitions between sleep and wakefulness, especially under conditions of extreme stress, sleep deprivation, or jet lag, the brain can wake up while the body remains locked in this paralytic state. You are conscious, you can see your room, you can hear sounds, but you cannot move, speak, or cry out. This alone is a profoundly disorienting and terrifying experience. But the human brain, a magnificent pattern-seeking machine thrust into a state of panic and sensory deprivation, tries to make sense of this paralysis. It scans its memory banks for an explanation and often projects a presence into the room. A shadowy figure, an old hag, a demon, an alien. It explains the chest pressure caused by the paralysis of the intercostal muscles we use to breathe deeply by creating the hallucination of something sitting on you. This is a global phenomenon. In Newfoundland, it's the old hag. In Turkey, it's the jinn. In Mexico, it's Subers el Muerto, the dead person on you. In Cambodia, it's the Khmeok Sangkat. And for the Hmong, it was the Dab Tsog. The cultural framework provides the specific imagery for the universal biological experience. So the mystery was solved? It was just mass sleep paralysis triggered by the immense stress of relocation? Not quite. Sleep paralysis is frightening, and it feels like you're dying, but it is transient, and it doesn't actually kill you. People around the world experience it and wake up, shaken but alive. So why were these men dying? Why was the Hmong experience so uniquely fatal? The final, crucial piece of this terrifying puzzle came from the world of cardiology. Researchers, delving deeper into the medical histories and genetics of the victims, discovered that a disproportionately high number of these young Southeast Asian men had a specific, often hidden, genetic cardiac condition known as Brugada Syndrome. Named after the Spanish cardiologist who first described it in 1992, Brugada syndrome is a rare inherited heart rhythm disorder caused by a mutation in the genes that regulate the flow of sodium ions into the heart muscle cells. This disruption cripples the heart's electrical impulses. Crucially, it is often asymptomatic during the day. There may be no warning signs, no dizziness, no palpitations, nothing. Its fatal irregularities, specifically a dangerous arrhythmia, called ventricular fibrillation, are most likely to be triggered during sleep, specifically during deep, slow-wave sleep, by a sudden adrenaline surge. The heart's electrical activity becomes chaotic, and instead of pumping blood, it merely quivers, stopping all blood flow to the brain and body almost instantly.